Okay, class. In this video, we'll go over exercise 3-1, creating the invoice total app. So let's start with opening Visual Android Studio. And you will want to open up Chapter 3, Exercise 1, Invoice in Exercise Starts. So here is mine. And off the bat, you will notice that there is an error that shows when the project refresh is trying to happen. So the way we can fix that is by going to Gradle scripts and updating the Gradle version. The reason why it's currently not working is the starter code is a bit older than current Gradle version. So we can change this value to 3.01. It's still not going to work after changing that, and the reason for that is we also need to update the link to Gradle. This is the old Gradle. We need the newer Gradle here, so that will be 4.2. So now the project compiles, but we get one warning, which is saying Android SDK build tools 26.0.2 will be used. We can actually get rid of that warning by going to here and changing the value to a newer build tools version. And then let's sync now. Alright, now we have a project that compiles without any issues. Let's try running it. So it runs, but it doesn't do anything. So up to now we have completed steps 1 and 2. Now we need to modify the Java application, the Java code inside of the application to make it work. So the way we can do that is by navigating to the Java invoice total activity file. So once we are in that file, let's move to step 4, which says that we need to use the onCreate method to get references to the edit text widget and all the other 3 text view widgets. So the way we can do that is like this, and we would use the methods find by ID, and we want to make those variables global. That's why they're highlighting in red right now, because they're not defined. But let me define them right now. Okay. So that's how you do. That's how you get the references. The next step is step number 5, which is asking to create a method named calculate and display. I'll create another global variable which is called subtotal string, and I'm gonna put it at the top. So let's see what happens in calculate and display. First step, we are getting the value from the edit text widget. However, that's a string value, and in the next step we need to convert that string value to a float value. So first we check if the string value is empty, because if it is empty we cannot convert it to a float, so by default we are assigning it the value of 0. And if it's not empty, we want to use Java's float.parse to convert the value of string to the float value. Now once we have the subtotal value, we want to compute the discount as requested in the textbook. So if the subtotal is greater than 200 or equal to 200, we want to give 20%. If it's greater or equal to 100, we want to give 10%, otherwise 0. Then we calculate the discount. So the discount amount is the subtotal times discount percent. And the total would be the subtotal minus the discount amount. Next, we need to display the data on the layout. So the way we do that is we use the setText method, and this is the widget, and we use the percent format to display a percent near the number, and we do similar thing to total text view. Now, even though we created this method, it's still not gonna make it work. We need to add a editor action event, which is step 7, so that when the done key is pressed, it updates the value. And in order to do that, we will need to add editor action listener, and we are going to have to modify the class signature. And the way we are going to do that is by adding implements text view on editor action listener. After that, we need to override the onEditor action. So we're going to do that at the end of the file. So the reason why we had warning before is when we implement the text view on editor action listener, it needs this method implemented. So all this method is doing is calling that function. Now we need to also call the listener in onCreate. And the way we can do that is by attach a listener to the subtotal edit, which is basically the widget where we put the value, and when the value changes, we have the listener that we defined at the end of the code. So far we have completed steps 1 to 7, and now we can go to step 8, which basically says that we should test the app, so let's test it. Alright, let's boot 200. So values 200 or more get 20%. The discount was 40, so 200 minus 40 is 160. Let's check another value, 100. 100 gets 10% discount. The discount amount is 10. Total is 100 minus 10, which is 90. Alright, so we completed open the app and test it part. We also completed handle the editor action event. Next part, we are gonna modify the string.xml, which is the part of set the starting values correctly, step 9. You can find string.xml in res, I think it's in values, strings.xml. And we want to remove the subtotal. So subtotal is right here. And that's the label. We want to modify the one that's actually doing the value. So removing this, remove that. And let's run this again. Now you can see there is no starting value in the subtotal widget. Next, we will handle orientation changes, which is basically what happens when you flip your phone to the sides. So we need to override the onResume method. So going back to invoice total activity. So what do we do in the onResume? First of all, that's an override of the method that exists in the parent class of this method. And we want to reuse all of the existing code, and the way we do that in Java is by saying super.onResume, and then in the next step we want to calculate and display method to be executed. So now let's go to step 12, which is testing if the app works when we change the orientation. So as you can see, the values remain, they're not lost when we flip. Alright, so far we completed the first 12 steps. Let's go to the next section, which is called handle navigation. The first step, it asks to navigate away from the application. And then we are going to navigate back. So let's find it in here. I think it's this one in here. Oh, that's not that one. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay, see how all of the values disappeared? So we are going to modify the code right now, so those values are saved once we leave the application. So first thing we are going to do is override the onPause, and for that we are going to use shared preferences class. So I'm going to define the shared preferences private variable at the beginning that's going to hold the values of saved values, which are basically the values in the app. And onPause, overwrite, it's here. So what are we doing here is basically getting all of the saved values, and we are also adding the subtotal string, and we are committing that to the editor. And then we are also calling all of the standard code that's defined in the parent class. However, that's not all. In order for the application to work well, we also need to modify on resume. So we need to add code that reads the values back. So the way we can do that is by getting what the subtotal string is from the saved values and then setting that value to the widget. So I believe that should complete step 13 and 14. Let's run and test. Oh, there is some problem. All right, let's go back and review. Oh, that's because we haven't initialized the saved values. So we are going to initialize the saved values in onCreate method. And the way they're initialized is by using the getSharedPreference method. All right, let's try this again. All right, it works. Let's exit out. Let's come back in. Everything stays the same. All right, so that's all. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. Thank you for watching, and I hope it helps you figure out what you're doing wrong.